In 1977, you could slide a single box into your stereo rack and reshape every frequency your speakers produced. Built like a vault, heavy enough to anchor a shelf, precise enough to fix problems no upgrade could touch. 45 years later, the audiophile world still insists this category of gear is the enemy of good sound. They are dead wrong. By the end, you will know what separates an equalizer that elevates your system from one that destroys it. In the golden age of hi-fi, equalizers were standard. They sat alongside the receiver and the turntable, and nobody questioned their place. Then the purist movement declared war. The argument sounded reasonable. Any extra circuitry in the signal path degrades the sound. The ideal system was a straight wire with gain. Nothing added, nothing shaped, nothing touched. Equalizers were branded as band-aids for bad systems, and the stigma spread fast. But here is what the purists never wanted to talk about. No listening room is acoustically perfect. Bare walls reflect, glass resonates, furniture absorbs, the shape of the room warps every frequency before the sound ever reaches your ears. An equalizer was the one tool that could fight back, designed to correct problems that no speaker upgrade and no amplifier swap could solve. And the industry killed it anyway. Not because it failed, but because a good equalizer that fixed your room for a few $100s was a direct threat to $1,000 cables, speaker stands, and the endless upgrade cycle that keeps the cash register ringing. They convinced you to throw away the most practical tool in your signal chain and sold you a myth. These are the 7 equalizers that deserved better. Some came from names you know. Several came from names nearly erased. Let's get into it. Number 7. The ADC Sound Shaper 2, Mark II. Now, the moment I say ADC, most people draw a blank because Audio Dynamics Corporation was never a glamour brand. They made cartridges, accessories, the practical stuff that kept your system running but never made it onto a magazine cover. Nobody expected a serious contender to come out of that catalog. And yet, here it was. A graphic equalizer with 12 bands per channel and a built-in real-time spectrum analyzer. A little glowing display that showed you exactly what your room was doing to the music before you touched a single slider. You could see the problem and fix it, right there. No guesswork, no golden ears required. And ADC sold it for a fraction of what the prestige names charged for less capability. Here is the watchdog lesson buried in that. The badge on the faceplate was telling you almost nothing about what was actually inside. A boring accessory company built a genuinely useful tool that quietly embarrassed gear from brands with 10 times the advertising budget. The only people who knew were the ones who actually used it instead of judging the logo. But if a practical, no-nonsense equalizer surprises you, the next one is going to feel like it came from a parallel universe. Number 6. The JVCSEA-80. While every other manufacturer was building rows of vertical sliders, JVC walked into the room with something nobody had seen before. The SEA line used rotary knobs arranged in a distinctive curved layout that looked like it belonged on the bridge of a spacecraft, not sitting between a turntable and a tape deck. You could spot one across a room without reading a single letter on the faceplate. But the design was not just cosmetic theater. JVC's approach gave unusually precise control over each frequency band, and the build quality behind that strange face was well above what the brand's mainstream reputation ever suggested. JVC was a company most people associated with VCRs and budget electronics, not serious hi-fi. Insiders knew better, and that is the watchdog lesson worth pulling out of this one. Design. Innovation almost always comes from the margins. The brands with the biggest reputations played it safe because they could afford to. JVC swung hard precisely because it had less to lose, and the result was a machine that nobody could copy and nobody forgot once they had actually used one. Those first two are the outsiders. Now the heavyweights start walking in, and number 5 built its entire identity around one thing: equalization done properly. Number 5, The Sound Craftsman RP2215R. While other brands treated equalization as a sideline product, something to fill a gap in the catalog, Sound Craftsman built its entire company around it. This was a Southern California outfit that lived and breathed signal correction the way Porsche lives and breathes engines. It was not a hobby. It was the whole identity. The RP2215R was a dual-channel rack-mount graphic equalizer with a real-time analyzer built in, but at a level of precision that went well beyond anything the consumer market usually saw. The sliders were smooth and accurate. The internals were clean, heavy, and professional grade. And then Sound Craftsman did something almost no other manufacturer in this era bothered to do. They taught you how to use it. The box shipped with calibration tools, pink noise test records, and detailed instructions that walked you through setting up equalization properly in your actual room. They did not just sell you the hardware, they handed you the knowledge to make it work. And that is the watchdog lesson that still cuts deep today. A tool is only as good as the person using it. Selling gear without teaching the buyer how to use it is a deliberate strategy, because an educated customer stops buying unnecessary upgrades. Sound Craftsman broke that cycle on purpose, and the industry never forgave them for it. Sound Craftsman gave you the muscles. The next machine gave you the scalpel. Number 4, the SAE 2800 Parametric. SAE stood for Scientific Audio Electronics, and the name was not marketing fluff. This was a company that positioned itself as the thinking person's hi-fi brand. Clinical, no-nonsense, engineering first. While the rest of the industry was building rows of sliders, SAE built something fundamentally different. The 2800 was a parametric equalizer, and that distinction matters more than almost anything else on this entire list. A graphic EQ gives you fixed frequency bands. You push a slider up or down, and it adjusts a broad chunk of the spectrum, whether those frequencies need it or not. A parametric lets you choose the exact frequency, the exact width of the adjustment, and the exact amount of boost or cut. It is surgery instead of carpentry. You touch only what is broken and leave everything else completely alone. This was the direct answer to every purist who ever claimed that equalization degrades the signal. A well-designed parametric touches so little of the music that the argument collapses on contact. The SAE was beautifully minimal. No flashy lights, no unnecessary controls. Every knob did exactly one thing, and it did it with precision. Here is the watchdog lesson. The graphic versus parametric divide is the single most important distinction in this entire category, and almost nobody selling you audio gear today will explain it. Knowing the difference is the equivalent of reading the fine print on a power rating. It separates the people who understand what they are buying from the people who are guessing. SAE proved the concept. The next machine perfected it. Number 3, the Sansui SE9. If the machines before it were strong arguments, this one is the closing statement. Sansui took the two best ideas in equalization and fused them into a single box. The SE9 was a parametric equalizer with a built-in graphic spectrum analyzer, giving you the surgical precision of parametric control and the real-time visual feedback to see exactly what you were doing to the signal. It was the best of both worlds, and nobody else was building anything like it. The build quality matched Sansui's flagship receivers from the same era. Real weight, serious internals, a faceplate that looked like it belonged in a professional recording studio, not a living room rack. This was not a budget accessory bolted onto a product line. It was engineered with the same obsessive care that Sansui poured into its most celebrated amplifiers. For the people who understood what they were looking at, the SE9 represented the absolute peak of what consumer equalization could be. These are scarce today. When one surfaces in good working condition, it does not sit on the market long. Collectors know exactly what they are looking at. And here is the watchdog lesson that matters. The SE9 is living proof that the entire anti-equalizer argument was always a lazy generalization. A poorly designed EQ can degrade a signal, just like a poorly designed amplifier can. But a great one, built with genuine care, does the exact opposite. It solves problems that no cable upgrade and no speaker swap will ever fix. If the SE9 is the connoisseur's choice, number 2 is the one collectors quietly lose sleep over. Number 2, the Technics SH9090. Say the name Technics to anyone who knows vintage audio, and the conversation immediately turns reverent. This was Panasonic's Audiophile division, the arm of the company that built the SL1200 turntable and earned a reputation for engineering that bordered on obsessive. And with the SH9090, Technics threw everything it had at equalization. Here's the shortened version. This was a stereo parametric equalizer with a level of control that bordered on absurd for consumer gear. Multiple fully parametric bands per channel, each with independent frequency, bandwidth, and level controls. You could sculpt the sound with a precision that professional studios of the era would have envied. The build was pure Technics, meticulous, overbuilt. The faceplate is an icon, a dense, purposeful array of knobs and switches that looks intimidating until you understand what each one does. Then it looks like exactly enough. Clean, working examples are genuinely rare today. Collectors who find one tend to hold on to it permanently. Here is the watchdog lesson. The SH9090 was Technics proving that an equalizer, built properly, belongs at the same standard as the finest amplifiers and turntables in its lineup. It was never a compromise. It was a core component. The fact that the industry later convinced buyers to remove this class of tool from their systems is one of the most successful pieces of misdirection in all of audio marketing. Which brings us to the very top. Number 1, the Audiophile G18. This is the king. Audiophile is Japanese ultra-high-end, a company that has never once chased the mass market. The G18 was its definitive statement on what an equalizer could be when cost was not part of the conversation. Hand-selected components, vanishingly low noise, a chassis built with the care usually reserved for laboratory instruments. But its real party trick was devastating. The G18 was so transparent that engaging it introduced no audible degradation to the signal. You could not hear it unless it was actively correcting something. The machine that was supposed to ruin your sound was functionally invisible. And here is the lesson this entire list has been building toward. Equalization was never the problem. Cheap equalization was the problem. The industry killed the EQ because a well-built one solved too many problems that expensive upgrades were supposed to fix. A $200 equalizer that corrects your room is a direct threat to a $2,000 cable that does nothing. The market chose the cable. The engineers always knew better. These machines taught a lesson the modern audio industry hopes you forget. The most important piece of gear is the one that matches the sound to your room, to your ears. The best equalizers never colored your music. They revealed it. The very least we can do is remember they existed.